and welcome back to another episode of What's the Point? I'm today's host, Maddie Larson, and today's episode is a little different because today we are going to be talking to some authors whose works are being published by UWSP's own Cornerstone Press. We are joined by Dawn Burns and Colleen Allies. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Right.
It's sunny in Indiana, so that's a good thing.
Always good. All right. To start off this interview, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and your journeys as authors?
Sure.
Sure,
I'll go ahead. I'll go first. I have written for pretty much as long as I can remember. But I think the moment at which I was like, gosh, I think I really am going to be a writer. I went off to college thinking that I was going to be a psychiatric social worker. And then I went to a trip to London, and in Poets Corner and Westminster Abbey, I just had this sudden feeling that now I think I really need to be a writer, and this is just who I am. So journaled furiously about that for a couple hours, went back, changed my major, and ever since that's the commitment I made.
And what about you, Colleen?
Yeah, that comment about journaling resonates with me. I was a lifelong journaler. I still have all of them in a box, and they're the ones from when I was 10 are really hilarious to read now. But yeah, I was an English major in college. I love to read and write. But I studied writing in college, and then I didn't write for a long time. I think, I don't know really why, but all my 20s, I just was kind of living life, and I didn't really write anything. But I found that after my daughter was born, probably a combination of just being home more and kind of having time to fill and some new inspiration, I found myself coming back to writing. And the genre I came back to was poetry, although I do also write fiction. So yeah, kind of, I think if you're a writer, it's always in the back of your mind. It's just having the courage to bring it to the forefront.
Yeah, that all sounds really wonderful. So Cornerstone Press is publishing for you guys, Dawn, your Evangelina Everyday, and for Colleen, After the Eight Ball. Can you guys tell us what these works are about and what inspired you to write them?
Well, I'll go ahead and start. Evangelina Everyday is a book about a very Midwestern woman. And the inspiration came actually when I was lying in bed one night and I couldn't sleep, and a line came into my head about this woman named Evangelina lying in bed, unable to sleep. And so that ultimately was the inspiration for mine. I thought it was just going to be one story. And then her voice stayed with me. So it turns into 23 and ultimately became a book.
Wow, that's impressive. Colleen, would you like to?
Yeah, so I mentioned I write about my daughter. My first chapbook of poems, my first chapbook was a collection of poems about my daughter, and then I just loved writing so much. I kind of kept on from there and got to a place where I thought the next challenge for myself as a writer was to push myself to see if I could come up with a collection, because a chapbook is pretty straightforward. It's usually about 16 to 20 poems. It's easier to find a theme. When you're working with a full manuscript, it's a lot more difficult to find a theme. And so it took me a really long time to settle on my theme for this book. And it was a lot of me printing out my poems and putting them in piles in my living room floor and walking around and trying to figure out what all the poems had in common. So that's kind of how the book came about.
I see. I must say, I really like what both of these books are about, and I might have to buy them myself once they come out. All right, so next, why did you guys choose Cornerstone Press to publish these works?
For me, I've known Ross for a number of years. We both had a connection for a while with the Society for the Study of Midwestern Literature. So I got to know him through that and have just always respected and admired the work that he's done. Also, I was really excited that Cornerstone Press was a teaching press and that students would be involved, having taught for 20 years. I love students anyways, and just being a part of that process and getting feedback from people who want to do this for their future careers, that was really appealing to me. It's a small press with a good reputation and a interest in Midwestern stuff. So for me, it was just perfect.
Yes, ditto to Dawn's comments about the teaching press. I was so excited when I learned that students were going to provide feedback for my work because, kind of once you kind of leave the college scene, it's harder to find peers to read and really give you critical, important feedback on your work. I have friends who read my poems and say, "Oh, that's great." And that's nice to hear, but I really want deeper feedback so that I can continue to grow. And so I was so impressed with the feedback that I got through the process of publishing this book through Cornerstone. But what I really liked about Cornerstone Press too was the highlighting Midwest voices. I feel firmly Midwestern myself. I'm from Michigan. I still live in Michigan. I don't have any plans to leave Michigan. And I think that this idea of regional identity appearing in literature is really interesting to me. And I like that the Portage Poetry series highlights that in particular. So
Wonderful. That's all great to hear. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we are going to play a really fun game that shows us just how strange some people can be. Don't tune away.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Cam, and we're co-editors for The Pointer.
The Pointer is a student-run newspaper at UWSP. Student employees handle every aspect from writing to advertising to delivering the papers. We also offer, of course, the benefits of a newspaper, of community engagement and understanding about what is going on around us and what kind of reality we're living in.
There's a lot that people can do. Of course, we have like a lot of positions for reporters or for section editors, and people can write for like sports or news. But we also have, space for people who are into photography. We also have people who are interested in doing things for like the online and graphic design to like form our layout. There's a lot of different opportunities for different kinds of people.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to take a little break from the interview and play a game from the Late Night Show with Seth Meyers, Fake or Florida. So how this game works is I will present each of you with a news headline, and you have to guess if it is a real headline from Florida or if it's something I just made up. You need to get at least 4 out of 6 in order to win. Are you guys ready to play?
I think so.
yes.
All right, awesome. All right, our first one. Florida man tried robbing a Waffle House with finger guns. Fake or Florida?
Florida.
I'm going to say Florida too.
Final answer? You are correct. This is a real news article from Florida. This is from October 19th, 2021. And apparently, while high and drunk, Edward Rodriguez entered a Waffle House with a small dog and pointed finger guns at the cashier, yelling, "Y'all are getting robbed." That makes sense. I love the fact that there's a small dog with him as well. I love that detail. All right, next. Florida woman hosts a crocodile pool party, but unfortunately no crocs showed up. Fake or Florida?
I really want to say fake. Sorry.
I want it to be true, but I think I'm going to have to go with fake on that one.
You are both correct. This is fake. I made it up myself.
Good one, though.
I'm glad no dogs were involved, even in a hypothetical.
Yeah, that would have been so bad. All right, next. Florida residents walk into a vet's office requesting a COVID vaccine for her cat. Fake or Florida?
Florida.
My gut says Florida too.
Final answer? This is fake. I came up with this one myself. Though that does seem like a reasonable thing to do.
Well, especially since, that some cats were found to have COVID at a certain point. So, okay, you got
I'm
me.
sure someday we'll have a vaccine for them, but it is not this day, unfortunately. All right, next. Florida man tries to evade arrest by cartwheeling away from cops. Is this fake or is it from Florida?
Colleen, I'm going to follow your lead on this one.
Okay. Yes, I want to say fake. I am imagining someone cartwheeling and it's just not that fast.
No,
Right.
unless, it could be true if they were like really drunk or high, maybe. But I'll say fake.
Both of you saying fake. This one is real. It is from Florida. So on July 20th, 2020, after his arrest for blocking traffic, a man named Fernandez launched into a cartwheel to try to escape, but did not get very far.
Wow.
Oh man, at least we're tied, Dawn, in our Florida.
I mean, at some point, you guys got to say a different answer, right? Otherwise, it's just going to be a tie at the end. I don't know, but great minds do think alike. All right, next up. High school student tried to bribe their teacher with Monopoly money to get an A on a test. Is this fake or is it from Florida?
Absolutely Florida.
I want to say it's Florida too, not just because Dawn said it.
All right, this is fake. I made it up. I love the fact, though, that you believe that someone actually did this, though. Like a high school senior going up to their English professor.
I can see that. I can see that happening in Indiana, not just Florida, or maybe in Indiana and not Florida.
Yeah,
So.
having taught for a few years myself, anything can happen sometimes.
Has a student ever tried to bribe you with Monopoly money? Or
Not with Monopoly money. But...
No.
That would be quite the story, though. All right, and our final one. As of this year, Florida's state dessert has been switched from a key lime pie to a strawberry shortcake. Fake or Florida?
Fake.
I'll say Florida just to differentiate us.
This is real. This actually happened.
Oh no, why would they do that? They have citrus. It should be key lime.
I'll explain. So as of March this year, it was on the 5th day of the Strawberry Festival. The Florida governor made the announcement, and he said that they chose strawberry shortcake because it was strawberry farmers who helped put Florida on the map back in the day. I don't know. I would have thought their biggest fruit was oranges, but I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, probably all the strawberries I've been buying right now are out of Florida, so,
All right. So with that, Colleen, you are the winner of today's game. Good job.
Oh, great. Thanks. Paying attention.
Yay!
Thanks.
All right. Well, that was so much fun. All right. We're going to take our last break, and when we come back, we will ask a couple more questions, including our final question, what's the point?
So I hear they have like a sale at the DUC or whatever.
Yeah.
Some like type of coffee.
Doesn't know this now.
Welcome back, everyone. I've got 3 more questions for our guest today. First of which, what is your process for writing? And then what's the process like for getting your writing published?
Wow, for me, well, the process is usually starts with something weird. So in the case of Evangelina, she's laying in bed asleep, and she starts praying because she can't think of anything else to do, and she ends up praying for Downton Abbey characters. And so,
As we all do.
as we all do. And so there's a sort of what if question there. And then I just kind of pursue it. Now I'm not, my book altogether is a novel, but it's a novel made up of short stories. So when Colleen talked about arranging things in piles and figuring out what order they went in, I did the same thing with my book. So my process starts out with something weird. Evangelina thinks about teeth in one story, so I explored that to the tiniest detail I could. And then I shape it and do a lot of revision and figure out what it's really about. And that's my typical process. I don't plan things out, they just happen. In terms of the process for publication, first, it's the first time I've had a book published, so it was really thrilling to get other people's feedback on a book that I thought was finished and realized it wasn't finished at all. And I had several more stories to write. So people's insights really inform where I go with my work, and deepen it and make it more coherent. And then, sharing that back and forth, getting feedback, then doing the detail editing. And I'm obsessive about that. So lots of sentence level stuff, and then just the fun stuff, like getting to the point of being here with you and having interviews and getting ready to launch tomorrow. So that's pretty much it for me.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and what's really cool about this too is, Dawn can speak to short fiction and I can speak to poetry, so that's kind of cool. Poetry, and I do also write short fiction, and in some ways I think it's easier, in some ways I think it's harder, because poetry tends to be a little bit wily. Sometimes an idea comes to me really neatly and cleanly, and I sit down in 20 minutes and I feel like, oh yeah, this is a great draft. Maybe it's not done, but it's a great draft. Other poems in this book that's coming out tomorrow, I have been tinkering with for 10 years. And it's kind of like a secret that I have, like where this draft started. And that's where the excitement really comes in for me as a writer, is to see something I know I first drafted 10 years ago and it was not good. And now it's in a book, and that's a really satisfying feeling. And so with poetry, I think it can just depend. And sometimes I'm having an idea in the middle of the grocery store and I'm tapping it into my cell phone and texting it to myself so I don't forget it. Other times I'm trying to be more focused and deliberate about writing, and both work for different things, but it's always a nice feeling when everything just kind of comes together. That's the best feeling. And then publishing, with poetry, you just submit. Usually publishers, literary magazines, they want 3 to 5. They would like a sample of your work. And so you just kind of publish a few here or there. Hopefully the next step is a chapbook. And then hopefully the next step is a full-length collection. So this is my first full-length collection. But I have 3 other chapbooks that have come out. And then there's also a micro chapbook, which is even smaller, which is only, I think 10 or 11 poems, really tiny, as the name suggests. So it's fun to work in all these formats and to think about a theme carrying over throughout the whole manuscript. So
Wonderful. I like too how you guys each have your own different ways of approaching a story or a narrative or a theme and putting it all together. All right. My next question is, do you guys have any advice for any upcoming authors and poets?
Oh, trust your voice and trust that you have one, and that you have every right to write. Writing, and I've been doing it for a long time, but often inconsistently. And like Colleen talked about, I had years that I didn't write hardly anything at all. Trust that your process doesn't have to look like everybody else's. I had a professor as a college freshman, and I adore this man. I'm going to see him in San Diego in a few weeks, but he started out saying, real writers really need to write at least an hour every day, and discipline is important. And I completely get that, but I often felt like a failure when I wouldn't measure up to this idea of what I thought a writer had to do to actually call themselves a writer. So over time, I've learned to be a lot gentler with myself, trust my own instincts, write in the way that works for me. And so I would say that's probably my biggest suggestion to anybody who's interested in writing or really any sort of creative work. So that's my big takeaway after however many years, decades.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that too. And so I'm also a distance runner, and for me, there's a lot of overlap between writing and running. And so one thing I like to think is that a rest day is also part of training. So that's built into the training plan. You are not supposed to run every day. Rest day, you are still training, but it's a rest day. And I think of that with writing too. But I guess I would be remiss if I didn't give the advice to other writers to prepare for rejection. Rejection is it abounds. My work has been rejected just hundreds and hundreds of times, and so I say that because I have actually 3 books coming out this year, and so my family and friends are so excited, and they're like, "Wow, that's so amazing!" And it is amazing. I want to show them my spreadsheet with how many times these poems and this work has been rejected over the years, sometimes very kindly, sometimes very coldly. And so to me, sometimes it's just the luck of the draw a little bit that it just works out that way sometimes. And to know that rejection, it's often got so little to do with the work itself, and just to prepare yourself for rejection and to not see it as a something to defeat you, because if you look for it to defeat you, it will crush your soul and your spirit, and you won't try anymore to put your work out there. So be prepared for rejection, and if you can, find a way to like welcome it, even, because I do think it's helpful, and to have the right mindset for it.
That is some great advice, and honestly, it's some that I think most people can take in their lives in general, is to trust your voice and be prepared to fail. Along with all of these successes. All right, and now it's time for our final question, the big question of the hour. What's the point of having your work published?
Wow. Well, I have 3 books that I've written over the years. This is my first one being published, and I didn't exactly know what it was going to feel like to get to this point of it getting ready to launch tomorrow. Um, the point of being published is about giving what I've written over to the readers. It truly feels like it doesn't belong to me anymore. And I mean that in a really healthy, good way. It's felt a little bit like I have 2 kids, and when I was pregnant, like that week or so before giving birth, you just get to the point that you stop fussing and worrying, and it's like, well, this is going to happen one way or another. And this kind of amazing thing that, one, I did this and this is cool, but it's really not about me anymore. And now the work speaks for itself. So that to me is the most exciting thing. I'm interested to hear what readers say, what kind of reception and response it has. Um, and yeah, the point of being published is letting it go into the world. And then I also have to stop fiddling with it, which is hard for me. So it's a good
I
thing.
can imagine.
Yeah, what's that quote? Is it Mark Twain who said writing is never finished, it's just abandoned at some point? Because otherwise
Yep.
we would just never stop tinkering. Yeah, I agree with what Don said, and I think too, just I think it's just important to share your art with the world, and um it's very fun and it's very satisfying personally, but then you'll just never know where it goes and who it reaches and how it hits them, and it might really affect and influence and change people in really beautiful ways, and you may never know. But I think still do it, and do it knowing you will never know how it will affect and hit people, although some people will tell you. But I think that's what art should do, and I write to respond to art in my art, so I'm responding to artists and they have no idea, and it's kind of all part of this big conspiracy that we're all a part of. But I think there's a lot of beauty in that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the show today and sharing your stories with us. It was great to have you. So, the Evangelina Everyday and After the 8 Ball will be available after March 16th. Where can people find them if they want to read them for themselves?
Cornerstone Press's site is the best place to get it. That I think that gives the most benefit to the publisher, and of course, I'm sure Colleen also wants to really support Cornerstone Press through all that. So they can get it through there. It will also be available on Amazon. I've been told within a number of days, and so it can be purchased either way. Local bookstores, go to your local bookstore, tell them what you're looking for, have them order it. I'm a big proponent of small bookshops, so lots of different ways.
All right, thank you guys so much again for being here, and thank all of you guys for watching. If you want more SBTV content, be sure to check out our YouTube channel and all of our social media. This has been Maddie Larson with What's the Point?